Alright, this video is for people that can keep secrets only because I'm going to show you the most overpowered sports betting strategy that I have ever used. So if you can't keep a secret, click off this video. Alright, so now that all the boys are here, what if I told you that there was a way you could never lose a sports bet ever again? Like, you could literally bet on sports without losing your money. It sounds too good to be true, right? It sounds clickbait. It's not. It's just called arbitrage sports betting. It literally involves no emotions, no guessing, and just straight math, where you can literally always profit. It sounds too good to be true, right? Well, sportsbooks don't really like the idea of this either. Some will even limit or ban your accounts or place some type of restriction on your account for winning too much and being too consistent. Well, don't worry, I've got you covered because in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down 5 essential tips that you need to know to optimize your profits and exactly how I took my arbitrage betting strategy from just $2,000 all the way up to the $20,000 every single month that I'm making. So without further ado, make sure you stay till tip number 5 because that's the most important one, and let's get into the video. Alright guys, and tip number 1 is actually pretty underrated. I don't see a lot of sports bettors talking about this that actually use arbitrage, but it's finding a setup that works for you. What I mean by that is whether you're using a phone, a laptop, computer, whatever you're using, right? What works for me might not work for you and vice versa. When I first started, I bought a brand new laptop and a brand new monitor, and I wasn't really seeing much success. I was not getting too many bets in, it was a little hard to use and to figure out, and I started switching over to my phone. Literally just my phone, and I saw a lot more success. I mean, obviously now down the line that I've been doing this for a long time, I've gotten more comfortable with the computer and all of that stuff, just so it can be a little bit faster, but whatever works for you in the beginning, just stick with it for a little bit. Practice on that, and then once you get better, you can move to more optimal setups, to more optimal spaces. Now, this also means not just, your external factors like your laptop and your phone and all of those things. It's also super important to make sure that you have an optimal work environment. A clean, non-messy desk is great because it helps you focus and actually lock in and be fast with the lines, because with arbitrage sports betting, you need to be very, very fast because, as you guys know, the lines change, in the matter of minutes, like some even seconds. Would you rather work in a messy desk, or would you rather work with a clean environment, clean space, where you can actually focus on what you're doing, not get distracted with, the mess in the back or whatever's on your desk? You have nothing but you and what you're trying to get done. And once you have that set up, once you have a little system going, it makes it a lot easier for you to be consistent and to actually have a routine and see what's working for you and what's not working for you. And this brings me on to tip number 2, is to actually only attack higher percentage arb bets. And what I mean by this is there's a lot of times when people will go on OddsJam and they'll set their filters to only the books that they have access to. They won't mess with any of the other markets. They won't mess with the minimum or maximum percentages. And some of the things that I like to do that help me a lot is to only attack arbitrage bets over 3%. I don't really like to waste time with anything under 3% just because you always want to be thinking about the time spent versus the ROI that you're getting. If you're spending hours a day arbitrage sports betting, attacking 1.5 to 2% ARB ROIs, you're not really going to get much value. And sometimes I see people, attacking low percentage ARBs, and they have this mentality that they're making a ton of money, when if you just worked a minimum wage job, most of the time the minimum wage job worker will make more money than the person attacking the 1.5% ARBs. So I like to have my minimum ARB percentage set to 3%, and then I have like the maximum set at 20%, just because, in the US, we don't really have access to books that are gonna give us 30, 40, 50% ARBs. So those are pretty rare. And 20% is usually just the cap that I like to set it on. Most of the times you won't even see anything higher than 10, 15%. So when you're arbitrage betting with a higher yield, you actually give yourself a higher tolerance and more room for error and voids. Tip number 3 is to find the optimal time to know when to attack arbitrage bets. Arbitrage opportunities spike during line movement and market misalignment. This often happens during stoppages or pauses during games, when in NBA they call a timeout, or during halftime, or especially in like soccer when there's timeouts or anything like that, substitutions. When there's a pause in the game, it gives you a lot of time, maybe a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. I know that's not a lot, but in the arbitrage world, anything over, a couple of seconds is considered a good enough time to get the bet in. So when you are hitting these arbitrage bets during the stoppages and all of these things, live arbitrage betting actually gives you a higher profit ceiling than pre-match. You're gonna see a lot more mispriced odds because of how fast the lines are moving, how fast the real-time data is flowing into these markets, right? And all of these books are readjusting their odds, readjusting their lines while the game is happening. So attacking live arbitrage bets during stoppages is going to eventually make you profit a lot more than just sticking to pre-match arbs. And another tip I'll also give you, which is going to be a kind of a sneak peek into the next one, is when you're attacking live arbitrage bets, it's actually going to prolong your account's life a lot longer than if you were to just simply target pre-match opportunities. So the easiest way to actually track, these stoppages and all of the best times, the most optimal times to attack these lines is by using the OddsJam's automatic refresh tool, right? The arbitrage tool that they have has the automatic refresh feature where it, pauses and all of these things, right? It just makes everything super simple, super easy. It shows you all the most, optimal lines to take, which percentages you should take. Just makes the whole process a lot easier for you and me, right? If we were to do this without a software, it would take ages, it would take years. I don't even think it would be possible to do this without a software. So, I've been using these guys for God knows how long now. They're great. You can click the link below to get access to a 7-day free trial and use code JC35 for a 35% off your first purchase. And tip number 4 is to utilize the OddsJam's one-click bet feature. Recently, OddsJam updated their software where they have something called a dual click, right? The one-click bet feature, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or not yet, but basically, if you go on the arbitrage tool by clicking the link below, you'll see that some of these sportsbooks have this thing like a green button that says one-click bet. Under the one-click bet category, if you just click that button, it automatically opens and logs into the sportsbooks for you and selects the bet. So it saves you a ton of time. All you need to do is click the button, enter the amount from the calculator, and press submit, right? Abusing this one-click bet feature saves you literally like 10 plus seconds. And in the arbitrage world, we all know that 10 plus seconds is a lot of time, right? It could be a literal matter of seconds or, maybe even minutes if you're lucky, that determine whether or not you get both sides of the bet in, right? What happens if you get one side of the bet in, but you take too long to place the other side because you're wasting your time? Log in, details, how much was this again? Where's the bet? What's the market? That's a lot of time wasted and you can't get this side in. What happens to this one? Now you're at risk of losing money. Now your risk-free opportunity is gone. That's what we don't want, right? So mitigating risk by using the one-click bet feature is great. It's a huge hack that a lot of people, interestingly enough, don't use and don't know about. And like I mentioned earlier, they just released and updated a dual feature where instead of having to click both buttons on their respected sportsbooks to open it, you just click one button and it opens both for you. So this is great. It's a great update, one of my favorite features on OddsJam. So I would highly recommend, using it, giving it a try, because it can save you a lot of time and end up making you a lot more money. And this brings me to tip number 5, the most important one that you guys have all been waiting for: how to stay under the radar with these sportsbooks. Now you have to understand, when you're arbitrage sports betting, when you are using profitable sports betting methods, it's not a matter of, if the books are going to limit you. It's a matter of when the books are going to limit you. You're going to get limited eventually, right? Think about it like a business. If you're taking too much money from a business, right? These sports books are businesses. If you're literally taking risk-free money from them, they're not gonna want, you to be their customer anymore, right? You put yourself in their shoes. That's exactly how limits work. But they have these AI detectors that basically detect movements and patterns in, the user's account, right? In their betting history and what they're betting on, right? How many times they're beating CLV, the percentage, and all of those things. They have AI detectors that, monitor it all. And that's how these kind of limits work, how they, pass out their limits, the restrictions that they end up placing on your account. It's all detected by, the people, the bookies that are managing your accounts, reviewing your accounts, and all of those things. So there are a couple of things that you can do to kind of prolong your account's lifespan, before getting monitored by whoever's monitoring your account and then getting limited. So number 1 is something called mug betting. Now, upon opening or creating a fresh account, it's important that you utilize mug betting in order to look like a stupid, degenerate gambler. Mug betting literally means betting like a stupid person, right? So when you are mug betting, this means throwing in fake bets like random parlays, long shot odd parlays, player prop, all of these things. There's no really tangible number or tangible amount of bets that you need to put in, right? It's really just so that when the bookies are categorizing your account, they're like, oh, this guy is just, we're gonna make a lot of money from this guy. We don't need to monitor his account, so we'll just place him in this tier, right? So mug betting every now and then, especially upon creating a new account, can be a huge, green flag in prolonging your account's lifespan. And tip number 2 to staying under the radar is actually to avoid attacking player props as much as possible. Right, player props is a generally efficient market, meaning you're never really going to see too much value when it comes to player props. And the sportsbooks know this because they're the ones setting the lines, right? It's efficient for them. So when you're literally beating CLV every single time on player props, they're going to know you're arbitrage sports betting or plus EV sports betting or being a profitable sports bettor, and you're going to get limited pretty fast, right? So if you are going to attack player props, I would highly recommend you do a lot more of live arbing rather than pre-match arbing. Another quick tip that you can use to stay under the radar, it's kind of overrated, it's said a lot, but it does help. It's rounding your bets to the nearest 10, right? If you use the oddjam calculator for arbitrage, it's gonna tell you sometimes that, oh, if you put $150 on this book, you have to put $76.23, or like $78.55. Nobody is putting, those uneven amounts of money on certain markets, right? When they're betting, it's usually like $85 or $70. So what you would want to do there is round up, right? So if we were doing $78.27, I'd round that up to $80 flat, right? So just these small things will also help keep the bookies off of your back, but it's also pretty much inevitable that you will get limited. So you just have to keep that in mind. So in conclusion, arbitrage betting is safe, it's scalable, and it's way more legit than most people think. A lot of people, tend to automatically rule this style of betting out just because they hear risk-free and sports betting in the same sentence. I like to reword it and reshape the way that I think about it. And instead of gambling or betting, I like to think of it as an investment because we're getting ROI returned to us that's compounded daily. It's really paying us out more than the S&P 500 is if you're doing it correctly. So when you think about it like that, it kind of shifts your perspective on, profitable sports betting as a whole. When you think of it and treat it like an investment, you will also start to see your profits skyrocket. So yeah, guys, that was 5 quick tips that will make you a super profitable bettor using arbitrage sports betting. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you learned anything, always leave a like, comment what you want to see next, and turn your notifications on if you're not already subscribed to this channel. My name is Choi Cooks, and DM me on Instagram if you guys have any questions. I'm always answering stuff there. And also, 7-day free trial to oddjam, link in bio, JC35, 35% off. That's all I needed to say, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.